This episode is presented by TimeTrack Go, the simply better employee time clock software that is going to make your life easier. The unique graphical employee time card helps you quickly identify and fix mistakes, cutting your editing time in half so you can go on with your day. TimeTrack Go will not only save you time and money each week, but our easy to understand user interface and the ability to turn an ordinary tablet into a time clock will get your team up and going in just minutes. Now your hours can go to your favorite payroll systems, including Gusto, ADP Workforce Now, Paychecks, and more. Find out what a simply better solution can do for your business. To learn more and sign up for your 14-day free trial, go to www.timetrackgo.com. That's TIMETRAK go.com or call 888-321-9922. Let's go.
Welcome back, folks. How you doing today, Walt?
Doing good, man. Welcome back, everybody. It's another episode for you. It's about payroll. It's football Sunday.
It's football Sunday. My boys play tonight, the Cowboys. I have to call my brother. He's a Cowboy fan, so we can get his tears ready, get his tissue ready. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What about you? Who's Miami playing today?
They play. Who do they play? They play. I know it's a big game. The Los Angeles Chargers at 4:25.
Okay. Nice.
Yeah. So
all right.
So we'll see. Hopefully, Tua, he's learned how to fall because he took judo, so he can learn how to fall. Hey,
wait, man, he took judo to learn how to fall? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Yes, because so his neck wouldn't snap back like that when he fell and stuff. Hey, if it helps him stay healthy, bro. You laughing?
Almost been my coffee. Yeah. So he was like, "Oh, his neck can stay back." I was just like, because I know the frustration. I remember last season when you were like, "Oh, this kid, man. Oh my goodness, if he can stay healthy." And that's every Miami's fan's problem, right? Kids just can't stay healthy.
Yeah, man. Like,
and that happens.
Yeah,
it sucks.
Everybody's just watching him, man, because he had those two or three bad concussions last year, like really bad.
That's what I say.
They're talking about him potentially. Strong, bro. Yeah, they were for real. Like,
gosh,
to prevent that whiplash, or to prevent that, because when you get pushed back by those linemen, those defensive linemen hit you, maybe it'll help them. I don't know.
It's no doubt. Yeah. Oh man, well, good luck. Hopefully,
quarterbacks just need to wear like rubber helmets.
Yeah, for real. So just like big old
bounce off a little bit. Yeah.
Man.
So
this one is part two for the payroll auditing. We threw in time. I think we did auditing, and then we did two time track with the time track episode, and then a time and attendance one. So this is the second part of auditing, folks, because the first part of auditing, we just wanted to give you a broad, like, bird's eye view, right? Like, why is auditing important? When, why, those type of thing. I think we did some hows and stuff like that. But this, being that it's all about payroll, this part two is this kind of, these are the payroll audits that you can run, right? And we have 10 really good ones, and going through and getting organized. Some of them can be run during payroll. Some of them can be after. They can be independent of the process, right? So they're good. Like some of them can be run during, literally as you prep for payroll. All of them can be run anytime, right? That's a good way to put it. Yeah. So I'm going to do the first 5. Walt's going to close us out with the last 5. And the first one, document review and verification, right?
What?
What's up? No?
I said, what?
Oh, you crazy. And then exactly, that's what you're saying, what? Because it's that part of the job where we collect everything for timesheets and pay stubs and tax forms and employee contracts. And then, of course, if things evolved, right, it's now we have to deal with text messages, emails, fax and
all this digital stuff,
digital.
man.
Yeah, I got a WhatsApp story for you too. We were just talking. Hold on. And because we're in this digital age, sometimes we as a payroll professional need to create the documentation. And not only payroll professional, I think it's transactional professionals, right? Where we are responsible for executing a transaction. What's up?
So when you say create the document, what do you mean? So do you mean I get a text message from somebody and then I turn around and send them an email to
Unfortunately,
confirm,
yep.
hey, I got just confirming our email, confirming our conversation over text,
yep,
or over phone.
Yep.
So it's like just creating a document, because we
Yep.
know from our experiences as payroll professionals and outside that, email can be considered a legal document.
Oh yeah, it is.
Or
Yeah.
whatever. So,
That's backup.
yep.
And even if you think you've deleted it, that doesn't mean your IT department deleted it. They may still have it on. It's all discoverable, so it should all be being saved properly, right? So that's at the very least you have to create. Hey, per your text, just following up, I'm gonna add. When you paying money out, is right? I'm gonna add X amount of hours or money because you requested it. Thank you. You know what I mean?
Just because you deleted that email
Doesn't
and
mean
whatever
that's
doesn't mean
right.
it's not on the server somewhere chilling backed up somewhere.
That's right. You may have deleted it, but I still have it. So that's all we need. And you can, and there's a little trick in Outlook. I don't know if you can do it in Google. Can you? I wonder if you can do it in Gmail where you can save the literal email thread. Can do you
I
know if
think
you
you
can do?
can.
Yeah, I
I
hope
think you
so.
can.
I would imagine. I've been on Outlook. We're just on Outlook right now. But that is another trick to create your documentation. If you get the email in, right? Let's say you have a formal payment request system or something like that, and somebody didn't use it, and somebody's like, oh, I'm just going to send them an email. Boom. You can still save that into a folder, like other backup type thing, right? And create your documentation or pull it. So you got to be creative with these ways and create your own documentation. Do not get burned on not doing this, because unfortunately folks have real short memories, right? Oh, I forgot I said that. Oh, did I say that? Oh, I'm sorry. Well, I didn't really mean that. I just sent you a text. And what?
For me, that's the difficulty of communication, right? And the core issue there is the communication style, because I could say something in some way to you or to someone else, and it be perceived as, like, I could say, hey, pay this bonus, even if it's clear to me, pay this bonus out for $500 for whatever. And somebody could take that and say, oh, Walt said to pay a retention bonus out to this person for.
Yes.
So like, it creates that issue where you have to be clear, concise in your communication, especially when you're creating that document to make that legal or make it legit. When you create that email and you send it, you want to make sure that you're using the correct verbiage. You're putting everything out clear and concise, like I said, and make sure that everybody's on the same page. That's the importance of proofreading.
Yeah. Yes.
I'm telling you.
Yes.
I'll tell you, when we met it's almost 10 years ago.
Almost 10 years ago, yeah.
That's like almost, it's going on 8 years. So I remember when we first met, and I used to get, this is my first experience working at Charter, where I would get a text message, where I would get an email, where I would get somebody on the phone
call. Yeah.
Brian would be like, make sure you document it, make sure you type it out, make sure you do this. Just don't take their word for it. Just don't. Or if you can send a snapshot of the text, a screenshot from the text, do that then. Just email it and just have that verbiage there so you cover yourself, because we create room for error or confusion when we take it upon ourselves to retype it and everything like that. So it's just a key point I wanted to
absolutely. You think about it, if you have 3,000 employees, your transactional volume is exponentially bigger than that, because one employee could have multiple transactions.
Oh yes.
So we have to, and again, so much room for, yeah, I'll do that in a minute, or error, and oh my gosh, he texted me and I forgot. So yeah, folks, this is a big one, right?
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
not
yeah.
in order, but this is a good one. The next one is, so this is, we're still on number one, document review and
Yes.
verification. That's the document review. Create a document if not, yeah. And then the next part is verify the accuracy of the employee information. Basic stuff, their name, their
Mm,
title, their department, their pay rate, but they're also their indicative information, meaning like their social security number, which is
mhm.
a a building block of payroll, right? They ultimately that social, right? We're paying that social really, and then that creates a W-2 at the end of the year. That's part of their filing, all that good stuff. What's up, Will?
That's well said. I like the way you said that because when that W-2 was created, to your point, if the social security number is incorrect, when the person goes to file, it could be somebody else's social security number.
Oh gosh, yeah. Hopefully not.
So that name and social will not match in the
Hmm.
IRS's database.
Hmm.
And so that will create another issue where you have
Yep.
to do a W-2C.
Yep.
But that's the reason why you want to make sure. Now, there's multiple people who are responsible for checking the information.
Hmm.
We
Yeah,
in
absolutely.
payroll have our part,
Yep.
the employee has their part, and their supervisor or manager has their part. HR has
Hmm.
their part.
Hmm.
So when Brian says this audit, you may be a part of payroll and you may not be responsible for certain data. Still doesn't mean that you can't do an audit and share those findings with
Yes,
someone else. Our request that your counterpart in HR or your business analyst, whoever's responsible for reporting or auditing that stuff, it's important for you to either do it or to trigger or request those
I
things
like that. Yep.
from another group, right?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, payroll may have to do the W-2C if the Social Security is wrong, right?
Of
It
course.
may be
Yep.
somebody else's error, but
Yep.
W-2s are pretty much always in payroll's wheelhouse, and
Yeah.
rightfully so, I think. And we get the task to finish, and they're time consuming. Even if you got a service that does it, it's just it takes time, and it's a pending item until it's done. So the less
You have to
W-2Cs, yeah.
you have to send different parts of the W-2C to different agencies,
Hmm.
especially if you have to fill it out
Yes.
via on hand or
Yep.
whatever online.
Yep.
And you yeah, it's a lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot.
And again, even I've had services in the past where all you do is just update the old to the new, but even then
Yep.
it takes 4 to 6 weeks until they confirm it's done because they're doing what you said. They're sending it to all the agents. Da, 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 da. So it's just oh gosh. And mind you, if you have thousands of employees, if you're not diligent about your data, you're doing a lot of cleanup come year end. And
Jen,
that's
rubber job.
yeah. Yep. Okay. Number two, internal controls assessment. Evaluate the internal controls to prevent errors and fraud and unauthorized access. I love it to your
Mm-hmm.
payroll system and data, right? What are the inputs? Who's inputting into this system, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are the inputs and who are the inputs? Because, and what I mean by what is, are there any automatic feeds? Time and attendance could be
Oh, it happens. It
automatic.
happens. It happens.
Time
Yeah.
and attendance could be automated, you know,
If if you have two different, if you have a bunch of different systems or programs or apps in your tech stack, and
exactly.
two of them speak together,
Yep.
like you said, is that
Yep.
automation going over
Going
automatically
in.
from one to the other, right?
Yeah, automatically. You don't
Yeah.
even know. So, what are your inputs and who are your inputs? Do you have employee self-service where now employees are impacting with their direct deposit updates, right? That's going to impact payroll. That's going to impact the
Yeah.
experience, whether they realize it or not.
Yeah.
Manager self-service. Are your managers able to impact rates and changes and
That
all
is,
that?
yeah.
And if that's not properly managed and checked before payrolls run, that could run things array, right? Of course, you gotta not only what that looks like is your segregation of duties. Do you have
Ooh.
only one person? See, now our advice says it, ensure that there is no single individual that has complete control over entire payroll process. But that's not really
Mm,
realistic. We have those cases. That's best practice. That's don't get me wrong. That is best practice. But if you have a small shop, And it happens. There's plenty of businesses, right, that are 10 people, 50 people, 100 people, right?
Yeah. Yeah, but still, even with the size of it, it's my contention that it's you still need a backup to some at some level, right? Because
Their
it's
boss in a small shop, it's like either their boss or somebody that sits next to them.
something. But if the boss is out, something, God forbid, something happens, who's going to process payroll?
I think that's
Even
another
at a small
show.
shop,
I think that's another show.
David.
Right? Because you bring up a good point. You bring up a
Yeah,
good point. What is the solution for the shop that can't afford a backup, right? Well, cross train at the end of the
cross
day.
train.
I
Yeah,
think that's what you're urging, right? Is look, he may be, well, you got to cross train a couple people then, right? Up and down and
yeah,
to the side. You might have to have two backups.
yeah.
So I think that's
Well,
probably the best call out. Yeah.
because I worked at a place like that where certain duties and that were a part of the payroll position
Mm-hmm.
or the payroll process, I had a boss that wouldn't teach us
I
anything.
remember you telling me that. Yeah.
And so when somebody came to us
That's
and
crazy.
asked us a question, we were not able to answer them because we didn't have access, and we were never trained on that stuff. And if this guy was on vacation, you would have to wait until he came back a week later or 2 weeks later, however long he
Man,
was gone.
that's
Yep.
crazy.
Mhm.
Shout out to Annie Stewart and Erica Lee, my mentors from my past and work. They taught me not that's nonsense, right? You have to teach
Yeah.
people. Like being the only one that knows something is not job security. It's the opposite of it. So, anywho, all right. Oh, and the point is for the segregation of duties, my call out was if you have to have a single person, you must have oversight. So that's where the single individual complete, like it shouldn't be a single person that does everything and that person doesn't report anything to anybody. Everybody's just assuming and it's like, oh, it's all good. My check is good. I'm good. Hey,
Yeah.
we ain't
You,
got to check on her or him.
you don't want this to be in a silo, right?
No,
Because
no.
it goes back to our true crime stuff.
That's all I think
People
about.
operating in the
Sorry.
silo,
Thank you for saying that because that's
and
all I think about with this.
nobody's giving that oversight. Nobody has that control and checking them and keeping them honest. Like,
End up in
hey, this
jail.
is what's going on, and they end up in
Yep.
jail because
The
the
temptation.
temptation is there. It's like, oh, you know
It's
what?
too great.
Nobody's monitoring this.
Yep.
I can overpay me and my friends and I,
Yep.
and nobody's gonna say anything.
Yep. I can set up a ghost employee. And no, I don't mean Patrick St. James from St. Patrick, Ghost from Power. Not that's not what I mean. It's
I thought you were going somewhere when you said Patrick. I thought you were talking about freaking what's that dude's
okay.
name?
What is his name?
From Patrick Stewart. No, not Patrick
Patrick
Stewart.
Stewart.
Patrick Swayze
Patrick Swayze. What about him?
from. I thought you were going
Dirty
down
Dancing.
Dirty Dancing. Bro. Yeah, I
Oh,
thought you were going there. I
oh,
was like,
the ghost. Oh gosh,
yes,
the other
yes,
ghost. Yes.
yes.
Ooh, you did
Yeah, I
now.
thought
You
you were
agent
going there.
yourself. Now you agent
Yeah,
yourself for real.
man.
Yes. It ain't Patrick Swayze. It ain't Amari. It ain't nobody. This is
From
this
Power,
is
from Power. Nope.
my yeah. It ain't him. No. This means that it's just nobody. Somebody's taking advantage. So that's why we must have oversight. Even if you can't do the payroll, you have to be empowered enough and know enough to be dangerous to oversee your payroll person
Yes,
and make
you have to
sure take it
keep them
how
honest.
many because and it should be even easier if you only have one person in payroll. That means you got a small company because it's X amount of thousand to 1,500 per payroll person. If you only got one person, that means it should be a small, fairly small company, and you can stay intimate with that population. You should pretty much be able to see your new hires, your terminations. That's big right there, right? Know your bodies. Something that I recommend for every new manager. If you have a big team, and if let's say you have a team that's so big that you may not even meet everybody for a while, make it a
Yeah,
point. Make it a point to take one payday and make everybody come get their pay stubs,
and another particularly new wrinkle to
even if it's just
this,
a stub. Yeah.
having these internal controls is the remote factor, right?
Yes.
Is how do you have oversight
It's a good one.
of someone that works in a different location?
Yep.
you have to make sure that you have access to the payroll reportings, that you
Hmm.
structure those things out, have those SOPs created and stuff like that.
Yep.
Those are the important parts of it too.
Make your remote. Hey, I don't think it's unreasonable to mandate video chatting in some instances. Hey, especially if you're a new manager. If I'm a new manager, first of all, if we got the budget and I got the time and it's not too many, I'm going out and having lunch with all my people, right? If
Oh,
right, I got a remote staff. I'm gonna go take the. It may take me a little while, a few months, right? But I'm gonna make a point to go meet with everybody, not only for team building, but for
even
this
if
type of thing.
they're in Alaska.
Alaska's nice, bro. You just gotta go
I've
make
been,
sure
I've
you.
been, I've
I'm
been.
sure you have.
Yeah,
You like the cold. You
yeah.
like this craziness.
Not that
So
cold.
so do those type of things. You know what I mean? Make sure you
Yeah.
are seeing your people because to Walt's point, we are seeing a lot of video fraud with jobs, remote situations. My daughter got caught up in a couple. She was getting just left and right trying to get scammed with getting a new job, a remote job. Well, Walt's been a victim of it in remote. So all these innovations have really impacted these internal control assessments for your payroll. If we're taking it a little further, you have to evaluate your whole tech stack for weaknesses, right? So that
Cybersecurity,
all
all
of
that
your
stuff.
system you
Yeah.
pass that cybersecurity check, keep your folks educated because again, the number one thing from cybersecurity experts is being educated. That's the number one prevention of it.
Yeah. And this goes also for the systems that you're using. So if you use one of the bigger or whatever, no matter what payroll
No matter, yep.
software or service you use, you have to hold them accountable as
Yes.
well. So that's a part of the internal controls assessment, right?
Yeah.
You need to make sure that third party provider is doing whatever they're supposed to do. If they're supposed
Yep.
to be filing for you, you want to make sure that you're going to review that there's 941s, the applicable filings are done
Yep.
for your entities. So you want to make sure that's done. That's a part of this internal controls assessment as well that
Yep.
you have to do as a payroll processor. You have to make sure that you hold them accountable too, because sometimes they mess up too.
Yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Next one is reconciliations, of course. Reconcile your payroll data against approved time, your attendance, your PTO, and your benefit enrollments, right? Meaning how many people should be having deductions come out this payroll.
Mm-hmm.
Again, this is one. These are one of those. The first seven or so can be done before payroll, and the last
Or
few
during, yeah.
or during. That's what I mean. Yeah, during, like during your process, right before you hit the steps leading to pushing the button.
Mm-hmm.
So reconciliation, of course, very key process or
Mm-hmm.
step in the process rather. Number four is compliance verification. You want to ensure that you're in compliance with federal, state, local, labor, and employee benefit rules, if any. Employee benefit rules, you may not have any, but if you're in a union shop, the payroll person needs to keep the CBA very close by. I was just talking about this with my mom. My mom's a
Mm-hmm.
retired nurse, 47 years, 1099 union for most of that. And we were talking about union stuff and blah, blah, blah. And my mom was like, well, how do you know? Because now she's listening to the shows and stuff and she's listening to It's About Your Paycheck.
Nice.
And it makes her think about the things, the challenges, and she's sharing it with me. So it's cool because I'm getting that like a different feedback about what she's
Yeah.
gone through, right? In payroll. And she's like, how do you know what to pay them? And how do you know what this is and that is? And I was like, look, well, union they have a CBA agreement, a collective bargaining agreement that dictates the rules on how they get paid. And if they're really cool, they have a little sublet summary for the payroll person. If not, you got to go dig it out and create that summary for yourself so you can
Mm-hmm.
understand how to pay your union folks or if they just have a rule. If there's something, at this location, you know what I'm saying? It could be a practice because if it's, you know what I'm saying? It doesn't, if companies can always create things to the benefit of the employee. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't mean it's law.
Yeah.
It
I
does.
remember, yeah, I remember working at a place where they had, let's just say they had 50 locations
Hmm.
and only one location. was unionized, and that's because they
Wow.
actually went on a strike and
Wow.
did like for that location. Every other
Wow.
location was just a regular employer,
Yep. Yep.
but this place they had their own set of rules because they
Wow.
fought for it and
There you go.
they
Yeah.
got unionized and stuff like
Yeah.
that.
And then so you have to pay attention. And we have it too, right? We have these little one-off scenarios where it's something. Oh man, I remember one of my last jobs. We had retail places in Wisconsin and they have cheese day. They literally
Really?
have, yeah. So Wisconsin thing, but it makes sense, right?
Mm-hmm.
They've built their whole brand on cheese. So it makes sense. Like those things, it's funny, but it makes sense. When it's okay, cool. So you have to just be, and that's when we're in the compliance verification step. You have to just take those things into account.
Yeah.
And if you're checking numbers, you might be like, well, how do I know if I'm compliant with taxes? Well, the easy ones are Social Security and Medicare because they have a set percentage. So one of the easy checks that I do walking into any new payroll is I do that. I calculate that. I'm just make sure that the system is calculating properly. And also if you find something off, you might find an exception that is applicable to only where you're at. I remember I was doing
Yeah.
some audit and teachers. I was doing something with teachers, and there's an exam. One of these teacher rules out there. I've been in education for a long time. One of those rules out there, and I like panicked when I walked into a new shop and I did something. I was like, "Oh my God, we're not in compliance!" And they're like, "No, no, there's a teacher rule." And look this up, and I was
Yes.
like,
Yes.
"Oh, okay, cool." So it's those type
Yes.
of things, right? If you go into
Yes.
engineering, if you go into the industry, if you go into that, there may be things like doctors have rules for themselves. There are computer workers have different nursings have different rules, right? So as a payroll professional, we gotta get familiar that a different working class classification could have a different rule applied to them for something that impacts payroll. And this is where your compliance verification step will come in, not only in a pre-processing manner, but in a anytime. Again, some of these can be done as you're processing. All of them can be done anytime.
One of the audits that I have my team do monthly, I just implemented this audit, is for those, especially for those states that have reciprocity.
Yes. What's
Um,
reciprocity?
so basically, that's where they have a tax agreement between states. So if I live in Maryland but work in Virginia, there's an agreement that I don't have to pay certain tax. I have to file it for
Thank you,
where I
sir.
live. So
Yep.
that's what that is. And so there's an audit that you can do. You can audit against people's address, their home address
Yes.
versus their work address, and audit that to
Yes.
make sure that their tax is being
Oh, that's a
properly
good one.
taxed, right?
That's a
Because
good one.
especially
That's
with the
this.
remote,
You're doing compliance verification. Yeah.
especially with the remote situation,
Yep.
right? So if your company is based in Tulsa, Oklahoma, but you have people working from Florida or from a different state, you want to make sure that they have the right state set up on their employee file. Because when they go to file taxes,
Yep.
they're going to be like, hey, it says Florida here, but I didn't
Mm-hmm.
pay any state taxes and I should have paid state taxes this year.
Mm-hmm.
It would be a nuisance for the employee to have to deal with that if
Yes.
it's not set up correctly. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Thanks for that, man. It's a great call
mm,
out. Overtime and leave audits is number 5. And this is a big one. It's overtime and leave audits. And what it means is check your overtime for reasonableness, right? If you have restrictions and regulations on how much overtime you can pay out, this may trigger a report you have to send to somebody. If you're doing it before payroll, you may have to get it approved. Now you can't not pay it, right? Like we say on the show, you have to pay the employee and coach the behavior. You cannot say you weren't supposed to do this, so you're not getting paid overtime. No,
can't do that.
sorry. That is against the law. You have to pay the overtime, pay the employee, and coach the behavior. So,
Mm-hmm.
and then that's overtime. The leave audits is basically that people on leave, people who are still actively an employee, but they're on FMLA or personal reasons, whatnot. You want to check
Mm-hmm.
against that and you want to check their balances and accruals. You want to ensure that everything is being tracked properly, right? And everything looks within reason. People are
Yeah.
accruing within reason.
Yes, great call out there because you want to make sure that your PTO policies or your timeout policies are set up correct. So doing this check So if your policy is set up to prevent employees who are on leave or have a terminated status from accruing while they're on that status, and they should only be active, but you notice that you have people who are on leave who are still accruing or who are terminated and still are accruing, then you may have a problem with your PTO setup or your time off setup. So that's something to consider based on what you were saying. Yeah, thanks, Brian, for walking us through those six. I have those
Five.
five. I have the next five.
Yes, sir.
And so I'm going to start off with number six. It's the expense reimbursement audit. So some places, as you come across this in your career, some places will process those expense reimbursements through payroll. Some won't do that at all. They do.
Yeah.
You have to go directly through your AP or accounts receivable team in order to get those things processed. So if you are at one of those shops that you have to process expense reimbursements through payroll, you want to make sure that you audit those, verify expense reimbursements to ensure they're supported by the appropriate documentation. Have that documentation, right? That was one of the first things Brian spoke about. It's documentation review. This is a part of that. You want to make sure you have all your checks and balances in place to make sure you're doing and adhering to the company's policies regarding allowable expenses and reimbursement limits. So you don't want to try to hook your friend up if you know that there's a certain amount that cannot go through reimbursement without proper approval. You don't want to go ahead and process something in payroll if it hasn't been cross-referenced and cross-checked. Anything to add on that, Brian, before I go on?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
it's a good, definitely a key area to look at, because that's where like the negative deductions come in and things can get a little like, whoa, wait, this has to be documented. So it's a very good auditing point.
Yes, because
Yeah.
if you put it in as a deduction, if you put it in as a positive, it's going to take away
Take
from the
money.
person, right?
Yep. Yep.
So
And
that's you'd be surprised how many payroll pros haven't had this experience yet in their career,
you're
right?
right.
Dealing with
You're
negative
right.
deduction
Yeah. No,
and
you're right.
reimbursements and stuff. So yeah.
You're right. And then my other call out is the negative deductions part of giving money is dangerous because you do not see it in the gross. You only see it in the net.
Yeah. Case in point is that you want to make sure that you have documentation, right? Because I worked at this place where they would charge the employee for like background checks, fingerprint, stuff like that. It's not uncommon for that, but this place, they had an issue with getting employees to sign the acknowledgement for that, agreeing to that,
Oh,
right? Yeah, they were like, oh, you can just sign it after you get it done and stuff. And the employee wouldn't sign it, or they forget to sign it and be like, hey, you deducted this from my check. I didn't
I
agree to
didn't
that.
sign it. Yep.
Yeah.
Some states it requires the sign.
Mm-hmm. That could be a part of that document, that first one.
Hmm?
Like that handbook
Yes.
acknowledgement
Yes.
that people forget to sign sometimes. You and I
Yep.
experienced it at a couple
All
of
the
different
time.
places
Yep.
where they update the handbooks a couple of times during the year
Hmm.
and they send it out saying, hey, please sign this
I'm
because
even
they
guilty.
changed the policy,
Yeah, I'm
you
guilty. I
know?
push that off forever. Push it. If it's not, especially if it's not automated, I'll be pushing. Oh, I'll do it
Yeah,
next. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it tomorrow. It's
yeah,
just human nature. It's human nature,
yeah.
bro. And then finally, like I like the ones that dummy proof it. Like it keeps on your screen until, and then it tells you in red, today's the last day. Oh, all right, I'll do it. You know what I mean?
Yep, yep,
It's just human nature
yep.
because it's an update and it's an addendum. And honestly, the way ours works, like you can read it without confirming. So sometimes you might read it, be like, oh yeah, click, and then you get distracted real quick and you forget to hit save and you forget to hit confirm, but you feel like you
Hmm.
read it. With like I read it, I'm good. So
But
yeah, just
it's
a call out.
if you're in HR or if this is part of what you do in payroll as a member of HR, you want to make sure that those acknowledgments are signed because it could prevent losses
Yeah.
when litigation comes up. We've
Yep.
seen it happen where the person I never signed that, so I wasn't aware of the change. And when it came to this holiday, you got to work the day before and the day after. That's exactly what
Yes.
happened. It's like they
Yes.
changed it, say you have to work the day before and after. And
Mhm.
the prior handbook said you have to
Just
either work
before, yeah, or one.
no either before or they
Or
changed
to
or
and.
after to and after.
Ah. Wow.
See, and the person
See,
was like, nope.
one
Mm-mm.
word changes the whole deal. And
Yep.
one word saved them probably a ton of money, too.
Hmm.
So that's a really good one. I love that one.
So the next one, number 7, data accuracy and consistency. Compare payroll data across different periods to
Yes.
identify discrepancies or anomalies. So something that we do at the current job I'm at is we do something called payroll finals, right? So where we look at the last payroll gross amount and we compare it to the current payroll's gross amount, right? And what that does is that helps you catch those trends and say, hey, okay, why is there such a large variance between last payroll and this payroll?
Yes.
And so my team will investigate that, find out the reasons why for the change. Oh, it's a couple of terms. Oh, they had their bonuses come through. Oh, they had these payments. They had these like these different things, and it's good practice to do those things. So in case you have that external audit, you have the external team come in, which we're going to get to here in a second. On the next one, they you have the backup, and you're not scrambling and looking like boo boo the clown fool because you know.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you want to use these, you want to use this data accuracy and consistency. You want to make sure that you do these. If you have a frequency of running these audits monthly, continue to do that. If you
Yeah.
need to run it like a one-off audit because it's requested, make sure that you're available to do that or you have the resources to provide that report. So you want to make sure that you develop the consistency in these auditing practices, right?
Yep.
Number 8, as I spoke to earlier, you want to have an independent reconciliation of your payroll data. So lots of times what will happen is that some companies will hire a firm. This is more so for the larger companies. Sometimes some of the smaller employers and businesses will hire someone to come in if it's in the budget for them to do. But you want to make sure that a third party comes out who's unbiased
Yeah.
and who can come in and look at things from a high level and like really dive deep and look and try to identify any discrepancies in the process, any discrepancies in the payroll data, any discrepancies with employee. Like this will help validate payroll calculations from a tax standpoint and amounts and stuff like that, making sure that you're paying everyone in let's just say there's a state that minimum wage just went up this year. They will check that stuff to make sure you're paying the right rates, the right OT amount, to make sure that if a person is in California and they have meal penalties, that they're getting those paid out correctly, right? That you're not going through and scrubbing the data after time cards are signed. Those are different things. Like those external audits have produced results and they will produce results and they're gonna find where your strengths are at and where your weak points are at. And this is good, right? Like some people take it
Yep.
personal when they get dinged on something and
Yes.
like when there's a blind spot that they weren't
Hmm.
aware of and someone comes in from outside and says, hey, you need to do this better.
Yep.
Unless you're really egregious with these things and you're just having like bad trouble, I feel like most employers will work with you in order to make the payroll shop a lot better. So anything to add to that before I move on, Brian?
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. No, it was a lot. That's a lot. It's a good one because the way I saw this one, it was funny. Like we were talking about, it was I was like,
Mhm.
wait a minute, what? Bring a third party in to check calculations? I was like, that's interesting. I've never done that, but it could be an
Yeah.
interesting task to do, especially if you have like a lot of different calculations. I forget who I was just talking to right now, and they were like, yeah, we had to bring in 18 different calculate. Oh, I was at a 401k conference and I was talking to actually a person from Allied Services, the third biggest company in the country and maybe top 10 in the world. She is a dedicated person for retirement planning, just for 401k and those non-qualified deferred comp, like whatever that looks like at your,
Mhm.
they also acquire businesses and they're like, yeah, we have 18 different 401k calculations that they have to use for their
Yeah.
match because of different acquisitions over the years. And I was like, what? Holy crap. You know what I mean? Things like that that you just gotta you would have to check, right? Then you would want somebody else to help check your calculations. But so it was interesting.
Mhm.
Again, the way I interpreted it was just like a whole new thing. I was like, well, what? Which may be pretty interesting for depending on how complicated it could be. But at the end of the day, it's just, hey, check your third party data. And this is the results of an audit. And most companies get audited every year for different reasons. And payroll is a high touch point. Payroll folks, remember, if you don't know, now payroll is usually 40 to 60% of a company's revenue. That's no small potatoes, man. You know what I mean? That's a
Mhm.
lot of money. So everybody's gonna have their eyes on payroll.
Mhm.
But what I tell folks is if you're not being malicious or negligent, then you have no worries. If you're doing absolutely the best that you know how to do, there's nothing for you to worry about, right? You're doing the best that you could do with the conditions and the tools that you're given. There's nothing you worry about, right? Make sure you're documenting your stuff. Make sure you're raising red flags when you need to. There's nothing to you can't. Oh crap! You don't take you. I know we take it personal because it's what we do. We impact this information. So when somebody like scrutinizes it, right? It's like,
Take pride in
oh,
your work.
you take
You take
pride in
pride
your
in your
work.
work,
Yes, we
right?
take it mad
You take
personal. Yeah.
But see, it's almost like when you think about being a basketball player, right? LeBron James is LeBron James. He's a brilliant basketball player,
Hmm.
one of the greatest to ever do it, right? But you still need that person in there that's going to coach you, that's going to tell you, like, hey, this is a weakness in your game. How about
Yeah.
you fix that?
Yeah.
You're great at all these different things. Great here, but your defense on this play was lacking. Your effort
Hmm.
on this play was lacking. Give
Hmm.
maximum, like those are the different things. Think about that
Yep.
from a third party vendor or firm coming in, and think about it as them like being that coach or the extra
Yes.
set of eyes, and
Yes. That's a
it's
great way to look
assisting
at it.
you,
Yeah.
it's assisting you in honing your craft,
Hmm.
right? It's assisting you in becoming the best
Yes.
version of a payroll processor that you could be, right? It's
Yes.
not that's how you should look at it. You shouldn't clam up and be like, oh,
Take it.
we're
No. Right.
nobody's perfect.
No.
So you want to make sure that you use this and have open mind and learn from it. Learn from this stuff.
Yeah. For sure.
So number 9, payroll journal entries review. Scrutinize payroll journeys for accuracy and appropriateness. Ensure that any adjustments or corrections are properly documented and approved. So these journal entries, that would be mostly from an accounting standpoint. Now you may do some journal entry review as a payroll person. I've done that in my career. I'm sure
Me
Brian
too.
has done
Yeah.
that in
Hmm.
his career.
I've had
Like,
to make the entries.
yeah, setting those up and stuff like that. So you want to make sure that your portion of that process with the journal entries is done as correctly as possible. So one of the things that can mess up journal entries is, let's just say, stale date checks, voids and
Hmm.
reissues.
Hmm.
If you don't do it, if you do a stop payment but you don't void and repurpose that and stuff like that, that can create issues down the line,
Hmm.
especially if you resubmit payment. Or let's say this person was never supposed to receive that payment. We stopped the check, but we didn't void the entry in the payroll system. Like this will help our journal entries be more correct, right?
Yep.
If you have allocations, if you have stuff broken down by allocation and this and that, all that would be under the journal entries review. Anything you want to add to that?
Other than you said in the beginning, auditing our payroll journeys. And I was like, yeah, that's probably true too.
What?
You said journeys instead of journals.
Oh,
And I was
yeah.
like, yeah,
Oh,
but our payroll journey could be audited too. I was just laughing. My
oh,
bad.
maybe,
My bad.
maybe,
Yeah.
yeah. So, and then the last one is audit reports and documentation, right? So for me, this last one is saying this is where you provide your
Hmm.
findings. This is where you have conducted all these things and you have things documented. You present your KPIs, your payroll KPIs to your boss or the appropriate people, and you provide them with comprehensive documentation of your processes, your procedures,
Yep.
your SOPs, your working papers, and your evidence that you gathered, right? There's going to come a time, I don't care how long you've been in payroll, whether you're new in the game or you're a seasoned vet, you're going to have these moments where you're going to be asked to provide somebody with an audit or something. Right? You're going to be asked for something like, hey, Walt, Brian, why did this happen? Could you audit this for me? Could you, and like think about it, and it may not have even been your doing or your
Nope.
team's doing, but because it impacted someone's pay,
Yep.
you're gonna have to audit it and find the root cause for the person who requested it, right?
Yep. Oh, you just made me think about it now. Like, oh, you didn't. It may not be yours. I had to do a bank reconciliation one time, like a checkbook reconciliation for the CEO of a company that I was at
Mm-hmm.
against like his bank records against our payroll records to see if there was anything missing. Right. This is give you a trusted too. Good thing now I was put in a trusted situation. Thank God, because that's what it is. You gotta, and they literally was like, here's his bank statement printed. Look what he made last year. I forget how long the state range was, but and sure enough, I found a check they never cashed, and I was like, "Yeah, look, here's some missing checks or a check, or it was at least one. I forget if it was two,
Mm-hmm.
but yeah, you get because we're payroll, we get stuck with things, not stuck because of all, and that's
We're
we're
taxed.
tasked. Thank you. It's yeah, and I want us as payroll professionals to get out of that mindset as transactional professionals to get out of that mindset of, oh, why do I have to do this? Because it makes sense right at that moment. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? And this take the opportunity to grow. And then at some point, if you can organize it well, they may see, oh crap, this really shouldn't be with you, huh? Nope, it shouldn't. But here's the process. And
yeah.
I can train the person though.
That's a good call out because you're right. Like, hey, I'll do it, but just to let you know, this is where this stuff, and that could be part of the discovery period,
Mm-hmm.
right? Once you're finding out what's going on or what the root cause is, then you can go back and when you produce the results, you can be like, hey, this is where it started. This is the root cause. This is what the problem that it created, and
Mm-hmm.
this is the fix. This is how we're going to fix it. This is the error. This is the delta. This is the fix.
Yep. 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 Exactly right. So,
Mm-hmm.
man, good stuff, man.
Yep. So, anything else you want to add, Matt, to this before
No,
any fun stories about auditing or scary situations you want to share before we close it
no,
out?
it's important again. And as transactional folks, I urge us to take on these tasks, learn them, become the experts, right? And auditing is one of them. And if you get good at it, believe this is a skill. This is a serious skill set, right? The data, or knowing how to go through data and get data from a system, knowing how to compare data in different systems, right? That's why I went down that rabbit hole on the part one of this of what was it? It was the word audit, the word reconciliation, and the phrase or word data validation,
Yep. Mm-hmm.
right? So those three things, and it's a really good understanding of it all. If you get good at those things, you can now transfer, it's transferable. You can go over into
Yeah.
HR and be in HRIS, right? You can go over into finance and maybe help on and be like a business analyst on the
Yep.
on the operation side, on the finance side, right?
Yep.
The holy
Yep.
trinity of payroll is I heard that all throughout this. The holy trinity of payroll, HR, payroll, finance. Because please believe payroll stands on its own, right? It isn't it, although we are always a subsect of something else, please believe
Mm-hmm.
it's a stands on its own as its own department. Doesn't matter how they define us. That's right. Payroll is an industry. Payroll is a career, right? I just saw that all up and through here. If you get good at auditing, you provide something that folks are losing because everything is an app and everything is a no. Excel. There's a post right now that's been going on LinkedIn, and it's like a funny one where the dude is this like they personify payroll, Excel, and the implementation, and do some the payroll's looking at the Excel. Oh shit, that looks good, and the and somebody said it like, yo, absolutely. If you, to be in payroll, you have to know Excel. To be a transactional employee, a transactional professional. You have to, if you're dealing with data, you got to be good with Excel. That's what I saw throughout when we going all over this stuff. It's like Excel. Yeah, there's some systems that things can help, but like BI and all these Tableau and all those database things that it all spits back out to Excel. Like Excel is the root of it all. You got to know that to use all this stuff. So,
and that's a perfect end to it, because we are going to have a show, best practices for Excel.
yes, we must.
So
Yeah,
we're going to have that from a payroll standpoint, right?
Yeah.
So we'll have some general stuff, the general things you're going to work on, but from a payroll,
heck yeah,
like we'll talk about pivot tables. Everybody loves those, right?
VLOOKUP.
Yep.
And there's certain things that are specific. Right now, there's no excuse. There's a ton of free courses out there. There's a ton of people on social media, on TikTok, on IG, on LinkedIn, trying to be Excel experts to get the followers. And
there's helpful guides. Yeah, there's helpful guides out there.
Yep.
You can actually, if you're a reader and you're not visual, you like to read and actually type it.
Yep.
It gives you what the formula is, and it gives you an example and tells you what to put it in. There's so many different resources to Brian's point. Yes.
ChatGPT has been helping me write formulas. Okay.
Oh, think about that, where AI is going to take Excel. Think about the programs that we're not even talking about. There's probably other competitors out there, like Google.
We haven't even thought about it yet.
That's similar to Excel and stuff like that. Like, and
Smart Sheets.
Yes, all those different things that are going to be enhanced. So it's important that you get in the game now and figure this stuff out now.
That's another episode, right? Where payroll can go with AI. And we got to plan that, because I want to speculate on where AI could take payroll. Just speculate.
The future of payroll.
Yeah, the future of payroll. Exactly.
So National Payroll Week was last week. So again,
shout out.
Happy belated National Payroll Week to anybody who's just seeing this episode and didn't get the chance to see the other episodes on the clips. Thank you for everything that you do, and for the payroll world, and for your payroll community. I'm grateful for that.
Check out our website.
Yes.
It's about payroll.io. Right now, we still have a full-length thank you video that we put together with some professionals that we work with in payroll world, right? Friends of the show. They've been on the show. We're in this payroll journey together. Go check that out. There's short clips on LinkedIn we did for National Payroll Week. We had just a great time. It was a great week, like just seeing the activity, right? And the out there. It was dope. It was dope.
Encourage your employees. We have a show catered to employee, teaching them about their pay. It's on TikTok. It's about your paycheck. Have them check it out. There's new episodes that are going to be posted on there. Go check it out.
It's aboutyourpaycheck.com. They can check that out as well. Full episodes there. Yeah, folks, we're excited. We keep delivering new tools, new things for you guys. And that's it. Thanks for listening. We love them. I'm going to start babbling on again. Peace. Cool. No doubt. We'll do that. So that was it, folks. I hope you like part 2. We wrap up auditing. Check us out next week. Yeah, man. Thanks for listening. We love you. Peace.
Yeah. Peace. Thank you for tuning in to It's About Payroll. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and most importantly, keep going.